F, what the Freud. And thank you everyone for joining in. And I'm asking you to please participate because I so enjoy speaking to someone rather than just generally to the audience, because this is a call-in show after all. And that number to call in to is 323-524-2599. And so the show topic tonight is no trust, no relationship. I don't know how to have a relationship if there's no trust. And I want to hear about broken trust in your lives and why trust is so fundamentally important. And there are different types of trust. There's trust with money, there's trust with emotions, there's trust with consistency. There's just a lot of layers about trust. So I want to get into that. And I want to start off, obviously, by talking about where trust develops. So we'll go through the mind map. A couple of announcements. Those of you must know that the video that I have been working on very diligently is now out. Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. Be the Cause Mind Map Journey video series. And it is intense. It is really targeted toward healing from narcissistic abuse. Check it out. It's on my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com. I have the introduction up there. So if you want to look at it and see if you like it before you purchase, it's up there. So all you need to do is go to my website and it'll say learn more about the video series. Press the button and you will get the entire introduction for free. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about my mind map for healing from narcissistic abuse and other childhood wounds. And let's talk about where trust develops. So just in general, what is trust? Trust is the ability to be able to feel safe with someone. I think that's a pretty good general definition. And where does that trust start? It starts with mother-infant connection, father-infant connection, a steady family, a trusting family that you can rely on to regulate your emotions, to be there for you when times are tough, a family that's going to offer you consistency and have your back. And that is the foundation of trust. Dr. John Bowlby talks about attachment theory and how important it is for the human psyche to have a deep bond with primary caregiver, usually the mother, and how important this attunement and eye contact and breastfeeding and skin to skin. And, in an ideal world, I know that not everyone gets that, but in an ideal world, the infant needs to attach and be close to and depend on, because as I've mentioned several times before, healthy dependency is the precursor to healthy independence. In other words, you have to lean before you can stand. You've got to have somebody to lean on in order for you to feel safe and secure and develop and get strong and independent, and then be the person that others lean on. So those are the orders of things. And if you don't get that, then you can develop what I refer to as a toxic bond. Because if you're going to lean on somebody that isn't trustable, dependable, and there for you, and have empathy and attachment to you, it is really a one-way street. So in other words, you're leaning in, you're depending on, you're bonding to. Problem is they're not bonding back to you. And this leaves you in danger zone because, in other words, you're into it, you're in the relationship, and they're just not all that invested. And who wants to put time and energy into something like that? Because if you do, you're going to be finding that you're tired, that you're feeling vampire, that you're being taken advantage of, and that comes in all kinds of layers again: financial advantage of, emotional advantage of, sexual advantage of, all kinds of ways that you might feel taken advantage of. But certainly relationships that are not built on trust and are not dependable will not support the human psyche and the health of the human psyche, which is so important, especially in the first few years of life, which is really where the parents show up with their consistency and their ability to soothe you, comfort you, and so on. So let's look at the mind map and see the model for trust. I'll just sort of translate the mind map into the theme of the show. No trust, no relationship. So let's follow the yellow brick road of the mind map and look at panel 1, which I call the wounds of childhood, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, emotional physical neglect, control smothering, and narcissistic abuse, where the parents just lack the empathy and they don't really invest in their children because they want the children to emotionally invest in them. So essentially, it's a system gone wrong where it flips the system 180 degrees, and instead of you being nurtured and supported by them and feeling all this love toward them, there is none. There's no empathy. You have to look out for their needs. So you could see that the light in the background is the full potential of the developing you. The shadows that cast the darkness on the developing you stop you from growth. And let's use lack of trust as a metaphor for lack of growth. So if you don't have trust, if a baby doesn't have trust, they don't grow. And what happens is panel 2. So panel 2, I have labeled the reactions to the wounds. And these reactions have to do with the amygdala, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And if you look at this as a metaphor for our mental state, you see all this cracked glass. We're cracking up. So if we can't trust, if we can't lean on the people that we need, if we cannot depend on them, essentially to soothe our feelings, then look how dysregulated we can become. Look at this panel 2 as a metaphor for the cracked glass cracking up, the raw wound getting worse and more irritated, the perception of life beginning to bend out of shape, the inability to calm down and soothe oneself. That's why we go into fight or flight or freeze or fawn, because we're not able to calm ourselves down. And if we don't have caretakers that calm us down, then we're going to be consistently reacting to our childhood wounds. And so if we go into panel number 3, we could see how the lack of trust can encode into our psyche. If we don't have a stable blueprint of a family, if you can look at panel number 3 as a metaphor for the family structure, let's call the blue strand your father figure or your secondary caregiver, and the pink strand your mother or your primary caregiver, and the bonds between them are supposedly bonds that keep the family structure together. But if these bonds are unhealthy, if they're not trustworthy and consistent and nourishing and foundationally correct, then we encode into the fiber of our being these horrible core beliefs, untrustworthy core beliefs, like the world is not a safe place would be a prime example of a worldview that would come out of no trust. Or I'm always going to be vulnerable and there's never going to be anybody that has my back, or I'm unlovable because I don't have anyone that really can soothe me and mirror me and care enough about me to put me first. So this is where this whole connect the dots mind map can be tracked in terms of what happens when we're wounded and we lack foundationally the trust. So now we get to the outcome of these these wounds, or lack of trust wounds in this case. And what do we have here? We've got panel 4, 5, and 6. So now we start breaking down. We've got nothing consistent to hang on to. So now we've got chaos. What is chaos? It's an area of discombobulation. You could see the people flying off into the ozone. You could see the toxic haze in the back. You could see all the family structures unraveled. And there's really no consistency. There's no framework. There is no north, south, east, and west. Everything with regards to life's compass is really not in order. And so you can see without trust, there is chaos. And again, chaos can touch many areas of life. Without trust, how can you trust a person who you cannot trust your money with? How can you have a relationship with someone when you think that they're stealing from you, or they're taking from you, or they're taking all your goodwill and energy and efforts and spending it on things that you don't even approve of, or you haven't even discussed? So this is the chaos. Or how can you trust somebody with your body if you don't know that they're loyal to you on a physical level? So when the trust breaks down, then everything goes. Your ability to feel comfortable financially, your ability to be intimate with somebody because you don't trust to know where they've been and who they've been with, and whether your body is safe from disease, for example. So can you see how lack of trust, it's a big one. And I don't know how you can have a relationship when there's lack of trust, because of chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. Because if there's no trust, you're going to start defending yourself. Let's take cheating, for example. If you think that your significant other is cheating, or they're not committed to you emotionally, then your lack of trust is going to lead you to snooping around. It's going to even lead you to defense mechanisms like maybe drinking too much or smoking too much, or causing you acting out behaviors like cheating also, or for example, the lack of trust in a relationship could lead to really shutting down and shutting out communication, and not asking the right questions, and not opening to each other, because without trust, there's no vulnerability. So this is a call-in show, everyone. I'd like to learn from you what the Freud is going on in your life, and how you have experienced a break in trust, and what that's done to the relationship, and whether you were able to repair the relationship after the fact, or whether it just set you spiraling down into chaos, defenses, and eventually breakdowns and breakups. So love to hear from you, 323-524-2599. So I hope you're getting the drift of the connection between trust and reactions to wounds, and horrible core beliefs, and horrible beliefs in the world of being in an unsafe space and place. And you can understand how lack of trust creates a lack of foundation, and there's no real structure to life anymore. And it's very, think about how time consuming and emotionally consuming it is to be in a relationship where you don't trust, always wondering, and always tracking, and always following on Facebook or Twitter or social media. I've worked with a lot of patients who lack this basic trust, and it's a mess. And then they get gaslit by their significant others to the point where the other might say, come on, it's your problem. What's the matter with you? You're being paranoid. I can't believe that you want me to close down my social media. Don't you know how good this is for my occupation? you're making too big of a deal. So what? So what? I like this girl. So what? She was wearing a bikini. So what? I like this guy. So what? He was bench pressing. Yeah, so this kind of, as you can see, really takes the energy out of the relationship. And without the energy put into the relationship, it just bleeds out, it dissipates the foundation of the relationship. No trust and no relationship. So I want to get into how people try to fake it till they make it. And so one way they may fake it till they make it is by making a deal with themselves. Okay, my spouse is cheating, or my spouse spent all this money without my permission. I'm going to make up for it. So I'm going to run the credit card up. Or I'm going to do same and find somebody to cheat with. Or I'm going to confront my spouse and make them do all kinds of extra special things for me. I remember back in the day, I knew a jeweler, and he used to tell me how people would come to him and buy all these expensive pieces of jewelry, and the person would have an account for the wife and an account for the lover. And so he would spend money on the lover, and then the wife would find out, and she'd say, okay, now that I found out about your lover, if you don't buy me that 5-carat ring, or if you don't do this and that for me. Okay, so that's not a relationship. That's transactional. There's no connection there. Okay, so do you see how these defense mechanisms and these tit for tats can act as if they're compensating for the lack of relationship? And really, there is nothing that compensates for lack of relationship, because it's always going to be, how can I balance this out? What am I going to do to get back? What am I going to do to make up for? And it just doesn't really work, because what's missing here, again, is the intimacy. So if you look at it from the point of view of the narcissistic lens, what you really have here is transactional relationships, not relationships built on a foundation of honest communication and the ability to self-reflect and self-correct and own your own stuff to your partner, because this is all part of growth. And without these elements of trust, or at least attempts at communicating so that you can reestablish trust, all you have to resort to is a transactional relationship, which a lot of people have. A lot of people live on transactional relationships, and it's kind of like a parallel life. You might have fun temporarily, but at the heart of it, without trust, without intimacy, no growth. So not only is it no relationship, it is a no growth situation. Are there any questions in the chat room, or anyone want to chime in and pick up the phone? I'd love to talk to you specifically about no trust, no relationship. Let's talk about betrayal. Let's talk about what levels of betrayal you've experienced and how it stopped cold the growth of the relationship. Now,
Dr. Judy, real quick, actually, somebody does have a question in the chat room about breaking a trust, but what they're saying is, I can understand what they're saying is, how do you repair a trust and someone's still not equally giving the same amount of effort, even though both parties want to do it?
Wait, so how do you repair trust where the two people are not giving the same amount of effort, but yet they both want to repair it?
Yes.
Okay, so, I'm paying attention to the part where they're not giving the same amount of effort. So let's say you're the one giving the more effort, and you say, look, do you want to repair this thing? And they might say, yeah. Oh, okay, so let's go back to where the trust was broken. Let's open up the dialogue. And For those of you who are not familiar with my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, you know that you can have this downloaded to you for free, the PDF version, and you can always buy it on Amazon.com. In there is a thing that I created called the Peaceful Healing Dialogue, and I'll just kind of demo it so that you can get some semblance of an idea. So let's say trust has been broken, and in regular day-to-day life, little issues of trust might come up, like, oh, you promised to take out the garbage, you promised you'd remember my birthday, or you promised to go to the bank for me and put extra money in there to cover some costs. These are not irreparable, but okay, let's go for the bigger ticket items, like an affair. Okay, that's a pretty severe breach of trust. So you've got to own your own stuff too, because the way I see affairs is they are a defense mechanism against intimacy, or they're a defense mechanism against lack of intimacy. So let's say that you have this issue and you say to your significant other, this is, I'm taking it from the Peaceful Healing Dialogue, hey, Kevin, can I talk to you about how I'm feeling? And if the other person wants to a little bit, they'll say, yeah, Susan, what's going on? Go, Kevin, I'm aware that you've not really been present in the relationship, sexually, emotionally. I noticed that your grooming habits have changed. You're not coming home on time. So what's going on here? Please level with me. Are you having an affair? Are you going outside of the marriage? Now, very few people will say, oh yeah, I'm having an affair. Most people will hide that. But if you really truly want to repair on the relationship, you on some level, you have to make it safe for the person to talk to you, or else they won't talk to you. Look, you could say to the person, look, I just want to know the truth, and I can deal with the truth because I've noticed a big change. And let's start here. This is the part where you own your own stuff. Is there anything that I've been doing to make you feel disrespected or unwanted or emotionally unnourished? And then maybe Kevin will say to Susan, Susan, I have always wanted to spend time with you, and you're nowhere to be found. You're always on the computer. You're always talking to your girlfriends. You're laughing about all these people on social media. And to tell you the truth, I've been feeling really, really lonely in this marriage. Really, really lonely. And to tell you the truth, I've warned you several times that I have asked you several times to please be more present for me. I've asked you several times that my needs for sex are important. I've asked you several times to enter into deeper discussion with me, and you just kind of casually flip it off. So now we're getting somewhere, because it's not an isolated case of Kevin's having an affair. Well, Kevin's defending himself, or he's trying to supplement a lack of feeling nourished and understood and connected with. Now, this is I'm not making it an excuse, but we want to get to the etiology of what's going on. We want to get to the system gone wrong, as I like to call it. What did each party participate in terms of co-creating the situation? And so if you can get to that level, and maybe with a therapist, because it's hard to have these conversations, because usually if somebody says, yes, I am having an affair, all the blame goes to them, and there's no self-reflection on the other person's part. And the end goal is to, let's say, put the relationship back together again. Can't do it unless everyone gets down and dirty and honest and it takes responsibility for their own their own hand in the disconnect of the marriage. So again, I look at situations as systems gone wrong, and if somebody wants to build trust back, there's nothing better than owning your own stuff, because that'll get the other person trusting you. Like if Susan says, Kevin, you're right, I have been so deprivational to you. I see this is not not tolerable. I know that every time we go to bed, I turn the television on and I'm talking to a friend on cell phone and texting. Now I understand how that must have made you feel, and I'm not condoning the affair at all, because that's not good at all. However, I can understand why you would want a person and not just this object lying next to you. And you know what, Kevin? I want to be that person. And now I'm waking up to the fact that you have these needs. So, you know how things could progress that way. But if you're just you're doing this and you're doing that, and then it gets tit for tat, no trust is ever going to be repaired. I hope that answers the question. Do you have anything else that you want to add to that? And anybody want to call in? Because, trust is a two-way street. I know I talk about the initial blueprint of trust, which is mother-infant, father-infant connection. That's very important. If you come from a family where trust has been broken, where your parents have cheated on each other or left each other, where there are abandonment issues, it's really, really hard to model trust and have a trusting family and engage in a trusting relationship. Again, that's why I call this show Dr. Judy WTF, because we repeat patterns from the past that don't serve us, and we've got to get down to the blueprint, because sometimes it's just that we're playing out our childhood wounds, and we're selecting people who are going to betray us and hurt us and abandon us, or selecting people who are emotionally unavailable and apathetic and are not nourishing. And then we stay in those relationships and wonder, well, where am I going to get nourished? Now I've got, 4 kids and the house belongs to us, and I don't really want to get a divorce, and my spouse doesn't exactly seem to be all that interested in a relationship anyway. So what, she's busy, she's on the cell phone, she's watching her soap operas, she's got a beautiful house. Seems like all she cares about is using me for the big house and the big entertainment. Okay, so this is how things start to splinter. So how do we bring it back? Is we have to go back to the human. So you start thinking about that. You start saying to the person, I don't feel like I'm a human being to you. I feel like I'm an object. I feel like I'm a second choice. I feel like I'm being ignored. And so you've got to open these things up. If you don't open these things up, you're going to be stuck in this defense mechanism of faking it till you make it. And usually doesn't make it, but you could fake it for a really long time. And sometimes I find that people who have a lot of toys and money and so on can fake it for longer because the goodies are so good, the vacations are so grand, and the dinners are so delicious and so on. But who wants to have dinner with somebody who's cold and disconnected, even if you're eating at a Michelin restaurant? Doesn't cut it, does it? Because at our soul level, at our human level, the most important thing we want out of a relationship, unless we're just so burned in the heart and we don't care anymore and we're apathetic, but the most important thing we want is human connection. And if we're not getting human connection, we'll substitute this out for objects and affairs and money and all kinds of stuff. And the more it goes that way, the less and less the trust. So I recommend everyone download my PDF. You can certainly go on my website or write me at drjudy@psychologicalhealingcenter.com and ask for the free PDF and start reading it and start connecting the dots. And so if you're in a relationship with lack of trust, sit down with a person and don't go another day faking it till you make it. It's not going to make it. So just sit down and open up your heart and start by owning your own stuff and talking about your needs and asking the other person about their needs and doing an inventory on a relationship. So we've been together for 10 years now, so tell me, how is it for you? Well, it's kind of rough because you're so angry all the time, or you're always in your room, or you're constantly on the computer. Well, wow. I know you've told me these things, but I didn't know how serious it is. Yeah, at this point, I feel unimportant and unacknowledged, and I feel um, like your roommate. I don't feel like we're lovers anymore. And these are the things, if you're just going to say them to use them as swords against each other, that's not going to work. But if you're going to use them to say the truth so that you can repair. So let's go back to panel 1 for a second, because I talk a lot about this. Consciousness is causal. Okay, so you see the light in the background? The state of your consciousness. So if you're in a consciousness of criticism and finger pointing, you will get reactions and then eventually chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. But if you're in the consciousness of truth and unity and repair, then even though things might get ugly, they might, if you really want it badly enough and you see value in the relationship, or you can create renewed value in a relationship, and you get some good therapy and you get good guidance and you get somebody that can help you be a truth teller, both of you be truth tellers to each other, and use all the disconnects as food for information of what's not working so that you could repair on it and make sure that you can repair it. So if you go back over to panel number 7, okay, so after all the chaos and defenses and breakdowns, if you've gone through all of that and you've gotten some good help and you have learned to set your boundaries and respect and admire and cherish each other, and to invest in the we of the relationship as opposed to just the me in the relationship, if you've done all that, then you might just end up in a synergistic relationship, because you have to fight for that if it doesn't occur automatically. So what is synergy? If you look at those orbs, you can see that they're coming together. There's light in the center. There are boundaries around each orb. They're defined by colors. However, they do blend together. And where they blend is where unity happens, unity between one and another. So the unity is that white light. So even though I might be the blue individualism and you are the yellow individualism, there's something that pulls me to want to be a we, because we're wired to connect. That's how we're wired. We're wired to not be isolationisms. We want that. And in order to have that, sometimes it takes some rigorous honesty to take inventory on why this connection is not happening and what's blocking the connection. And through all of these rips and repairs, if you can get through them and keep your eye on the ball of synergy and keep your eye on the ball of me as a part of a we, as opposed to me, only me, then you might feel incentivized to fight for a we, because we're stronger as a we on many levels. You've got one talent, your partner has another talent, your business partner might know something that you don't. We're, we're we're a society. We have to function as a we because we don't know it all. I don't know how to build a car, but I could purchase one. I don't know how to build this. Not that I know a lot about building it all, but I do have my light and my contribution to other people. And so if I synergize with another human being, then I get that 1 plus 1 is more than 2 phenomenon. And that's what we're looking for. But we can't get that if we are using each other. We can't get that if there's a profound lack of trust, because if there's a profound lack of trust, then the idea is that you're going to somehow overpower me. You're going to somehow suck me dry. Instead of a synergistic thing, we're going to have a vampire effect, which is 1 plus 1 is actually less than 2. So we've got to get the system right in order to build trust, in order to build relationship, in order to build synergy. And again, no trust, no synergy, no synergy, no expansion of a we, no expansion of the we, and we're just sitting in our little narcissistic bubble, and we're not wired that way. We're just not wired that way. We're wired to connect. And there's a saying that whatever wires together fires together. So if you have good experiences with people and trusting experiences with people, then you're firing together these neurons that elevate and dial down our amygdala and give us a sense of peace and comfort and trust. And only in that environment can we grow. Any questions? Any comments?
Not really comments, but somebody did ask, about your phone number. They want to call you at your office. So,
yeah, let me put that out there as the easiest. Okay, so my direct cell phone, which I pick up sometimes, and if not, text me 310-739-4491. That's 310-739-4491. I don't mind getting calls. You're welcome to call me, and we'll go through what's going on in your life and get you the proper help that you need. And again, trust is just so foundational, but don't expect that everything about a relationship is going to be so trustworthy. We're always going to break the trust and then repair the trust and break the trust and repair the trust, but do it fast. Don't let years of broken trust go by. And confront each other. Don't be afraid to confront each other, because if you don't, then the lies are going to build up. The lack of trust is going to drain the relationship, and it'll erode it to such a level that you can't, put Humpty Dumpty back together again. I still think that if two people, going back to that other person's question, if two people want it badly enough, then call it. Call it. Say, I want this badly enough. I've screwed up. I know there are a lot of ways that I've violated trust in this relationship. I want to fix it. I want to see my part in it. I want to know how I pushed you away. I want to understand your defense mechanisms. I want to understand how I've hurt you to the point where now you're so distant from me. That's what it takes, because we all want to get one another. You know how we say, oh my God, I really like this person. Well, why do you like this person so much? Person gets me. Person gets me. And that's what we want. Even though it may not be pleasant to get it, it's amazing to have the person interested and invested enough in you to understand you and what you did to disconnect from them. because that's what you're attending to. In order to build the trust, you've got to attend to the human disconnects, which is why my book is called Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. Because the opposite of empathy is apathy. And so if you want to go down the pathway of, well, I don't care anymore, you've hurt my feelings, therefore I don't care about you anymore, then I understand that's a defense mechanism of apathy because you want to guard your heart. But if you want a relationship, you can't guard your heart because that's what it takes, is for two open hearts to communicate with each other and have the desire to come together as a one-hearted. And that's where the vulnerability comes in. So I'll emphasize it again. No trust, no relationship. No trust, no vulnerability. No vulnerability can't build back up the trust. You see how this thing goes? So I really support everybody to open it up. Don't just hide from it and put your head in the sand and pretend that you're not heard if you are heard, and pretend that your needs don't matter, and pretend that things are better than they look because you live in a white picket fence house and everything's functional. So what? Just because everything's functional doesn't mean you feel connected to, doesn't mean that you feel relaxed and at peace with your people in your life, your significant other. So consider what's really, really important. If you want status quo and you want to ignore all of that and just continue on and pretend everything is just okay, I don't see how you can hold on to that for too long, because it's going to break down eventually. Things that are not built foundationally correctly are going to break down into chaos, defenses, and ultimately they'll go into panel number 6, which is a real big breakdown, like a divorce or getting sick, physically getting sick, or some kind of a clash that breaks us down. And it's better to break through, as far as I'm concerned, than to break down. And in order to break through, you need truth and honesty. And in order to have that truth and honesty, you might have to confront, even if you use the peaceful healing dialogue, which is a way to dialogue so that you don't burn your bridges and you don't disconnect even further. But it's essential that you don't let things just go and rot in a relationship, because if you do, it catches up with you. And even though you want to step around it and avoid it, there's no avoiding it. I can avoid maintenance on my house, but for how long? Until my house breaks down or part of my house breaks down. Same thing with a relationship. You can avoid it as much as you want, but eventually, if you don't attend to it, it's just going to break down. It'd be nice if I had a call in and I have time for one call in. It would be wonderful to talk to you guys and do share what's going on in your life so we can get to the heart of it, the truth of it, which is where the repair will happen. So I hope I've left you with some concepts here about truth and confronting things that are not working, and how important it is for you to own your own stuff in the system gone wrong, and how it's not only one-sided, and that there is hope when two people fight for a we, rather than just to get stubborn and be a me. And me doesn't make you feel very nourished, because we're wired to connect. So I hope you guys are learning something. I hope that you're taking away some ideas on how to connect and how to reestablish trust if it's been broken. And feel free to reach out to me. 310-739-4491 is my direct number. If you are healing from narcissistic abuse and you don't want to spend gobs of money on therapy with me, then you can get my video. I put so much time and effort into this video, healing from narcissistic abuse, and I go through it step by step. It's sort of like having therapy with me, and the journal and the book and the video, of course. And then if you want to add sessions to the video, if you find that you just want somebody to talk to, you could always reach out to me and or a member of my team, and we'll get you the therapy that you need so that you can heal from childhood wounds, narcissistic abuse, open up the truth, and as Martin Luther King says, the truth will set you free, and the truth will develop a basis for trust. And through more and more truths and reveals, you can build it back up. So thank you very much, everyone. And I will see you next week. Good night.